So we've been focusing this semester on copper, and our electronics are chock full of copper. And as you know, everybody at home is no longer hooking up wires to their television set. And so our houses are full of just thousands and thousands of miles of copper that needs to be recovered in some way. And typically what will happen is folks will try to strip things down and bring it to a recycling center. But imagine the heat it takes to melt that down into copper ingots. So this is a way of skipping all of that carbon-intensive stuff and just going directly to those fragments. And instead of using the brute force of high energy process, using that design imagination, that arts imagination, to empower that upcycling part of the process.
In Ron's class, we started off taking e-waste apart. We took a fan and took the copper out of it and used the copper to create jewelry. And in this process, we learned all about the extractive industries behind jewelry making and craft in general. And from there, we made pieces of jewelry to go into the African Bead Museum, working with Dabls there.
So we've partnered with the African Bead Museum in Detroit. Dabls is the director of that, and he's created this outdoor sculpture garden out of just sort of industrial waste. And he's got a little bead gallery where he sells beadwork. And so folks tour the sculpture garden, come into the bead gallery. So I've been working with them for a few years now. So the students haven't been involved in a particular interest we had in following this example Dabls had created of recovering waste. Not recycling, where you break down the plastic into a liquid and try to reform it into another plastic, because that has a huge carbon footprint, but rather upcycling, right? Taking what's there and trying to figure out, how can I refashion this into something that's useful and will have a whole nother life cycle to it?
I was quite impressed by them taking something that has been primarily two-dimensional and making three-dimensional items out of it that has a commercial feel about it. Those designs can be turned into things that we can generate revenue by selling them, because they involve symbols that people would like to wear, but they are not being made anywhere. So it's a whole new niche there with those symbols, especially making them out of copper. People have taken an interest in copper lately because of how it works with the body.
It's important to work with community members because the stuff that we made will be going directly into this community. And I think it's important to learn from the community before you put yourself into it, because it's not ours, and it's important to learn what's around us before we get ourselves involved in it. I think it reminds the students that there's a whole lot more going on outside of this university, but it's important for us to be involved in that as well.
I'm glad that Rod selected us to do this project. He introduced us to a whole different process and getting something to market. There's a lot of costs involved, but if you got students doing it, then they benefit because it's an educational experience for them.